Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Welcome. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Wednesday, October 14th, 287 days into the new year, 78 days left. 78. Man, 2016 right around the corner. That's why I do that at the beginning of every show. Just so you can get a feeling of time. We are live from the City of Angels Studios right here in Burbank, California. COA Vapor, makers of the Fade to Black e-juice. It's called Fader Loops. Just go to the COA banner, jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo code JimmyLive. That's Jimmy, L-I-V-E, for the Fader Night Special. It's 25% off of your order. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR and the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. And tonight, little change of schedule. Seth Shostak will not be with us. He flew in from New Zealand last night and got the flu. He tried to make the show tonight. He can't make it out of bed. We will have him rescheduled for next week. He wanted me to apologize to everybody out there, and he says it's very uncharacteristic of him to do something like this, but he did, and he apologizes. And we have a lot to talk about with Seth. We will do it next week. Lots of breaking news over the past few days. So anyway, we'll have Seth on with us next week. I think next Tuesday. All righty. Oh, man, wait till you... Oh, next week is going to blow your mind, too. But tonight, as promised, we have John Ventre with us and Owen Eichler. And their new report that has just been released, it came out in John's book a couple of weeks ago, October 3rd. And so they will be on with us to talk about the Kecksburg case and these new revelations. I've got some new photographs that they sent me today. Pretty interesting. I posted one of them on Facebook. Well, I didn't. Somebody else did. But posted on Facebook at our Facebook page. We'll tweet it out here when we bring the guys on. Pretty interesting, compelling information that they want to bring forward. They have, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Kecksburg is an interesting case. It's a case where the lies, the deceit, the government blocking of stuff immediately just said there was way too many eyewitnesses. So we know an object came down in Kecksburg. We know that it was under some kind of control, took a couple of turns, and crashed or landed. That we know. Too many eyewitnesses, too many things about the case. So we know that something happened there. And we'll be talking about that tonight with John and Owen. They'll be on at the top of the hour, okay? And so there you go. And that's the evening tonight. Tomorrow night, I'm going to announce this now. Tomorrow night is a John Teeter evening. There is some breaking news on John Teeter. And tomorrow night, I will have on this very program 2 of the players in the John Teeter case. And when I say 2 of the players, I mean 2 of the players. One of which has never spoken. And I will have him on the air tomorrow night, both of them. And so we're going to do a Fader night tomorrow night. We're going to be taking calls. And it's going to be an all John Teeter time travel evening tomorrow. I'm excited about this in this breaking news, and we'll talk about John Teeter here at the bottom of the hour, and I'll tell you what's going on a little bit. But the suspense and everything else that is wrapped up around this is going to blow some minds tomorrow night. Exclusive right here, only on Fade to Black. You guys are so spoiled. So spoiled. Walter didn't waste any time, did he? Love you, Walter. Walter, this show's for you tomorrow night. Yeah, Jimmy just made my week. Walter just tweeted out. That'll get a retweet. Tomorrow night's for you, Walter, and tonight too as well. Yeah, and I haven't done John Teeter in a little bit. I've been waiting for a couple of things to play out, and then we've got this situation that is surfacing now. So that's it. Tomorrow night, John Teeter night, and we pulled all the stops. So tomorrow night is a night that you're not going to want to miss. And there you go. We will make the announcements about tomorrow starting after the show tonight. You've heard it first. It's going to be great. It's killing me, but I can't say anything. I just can't. I can't do it. I can't. I can't do it, man. I can't let everybody else know what's going on, if you know what I'm saying. Wink, wink, wink. All right. So that's the show tonight. And just really quick, before I get to a couple of other things, don't forget about Alien Snowfest. The pre-sale super early bird price on the tickets is $179. Just go to aliensnowfest.com. Go to Jimmy Church Radio. Right there, homepage, click, go do it. Tickets, info, lodging, everything that you need is there at aliensnowfest.com. Go check it out. Nori's going to be there. Tom Danheiser, Jason Martell, Stanton Friedman, Micah Hanks, Mike Barra, Richard Dolan, myself, Chase Kletsky. Go and check it out. It's going to be amazing. Absolutely. That lineup right there, that's it. You know what I mean? That is it. It's going to be extraordinary. No filler at Alien Snowfest. Absolutely not. Let's see here. Let's just go ahead. I'm just looking at the clock here. Yeah, let's just go ahead and move forward. Let's do it. I think an alien just flew into my mouth. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I saw it buzzing, and it went bink, hit my tongue, but it wasn't there. Interesting. Studio Dome, thank you, everybody. They are very happy, by the way. They love you, Fader Knots. Just go to the Studio Dome banner. Get yourself an SBB. Go to jimmychurchradio.com. Everybody buying those in pairs. And you should. When it's that price. Man. Last year, I'll tell you a funny story. Last year, Rita and I went to one of the big manufacturers out there. Just use your imagination. You have, hold on. Okay. Trevor, I just got your text. I got to go back and check that out during the break. Trevor's listening to the show from Alien Snowfest. So he's made some kind of announcement here, and I'll pick it up after the break. Where was I? Oh, so Rita and I, last year, we had to go buy some high-tech gear. And so we went to one of the manufacturers' stores. Use your imagination. Samsung, Sony, something like that. Okay. I see that. Okay. Everybody's texting me. And so we go. And we buy a Bluetooth speaker, amongst other things. And there was one that, was like, oh, man, look at that. Check it out. Kind of looks like the SBB, that kind of shape. And we paid through the nose. Through the nose. And comparing the SBB to this, it's a no-brainer. And that's just it. It's one of those things. It's like buyer's remorse, Anyway, well, it looks nice. It's got a nice color to it. So anyway, that's my story. So that one, the expensive one that we spent all this money on, we don't even use. Nope. It's an SBB SD1 World over at Casa Day Church. Moving on. The word of the month is spoon. You can email throughout the show. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Simple enough. Follow us on Twitter at jchurchradio. Get yourself TweetDeck. Use the hashtag F2B. That is the sandbox. Tonight, John Ventre is with us and his partner, Owen Eichler. We will be discussing Kecksburg all night with their new report. This is Fade to Black. When I come back, I will have all the news that you know nothing about, a couple of other things, breaking news, John Teeter, all kinds of stuff coming up tonight. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet, this is Bespoke Radio for the masses. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. That's what I'm talking about. Tonight we have very special guests John Ventre and Owen Eichler. We'll be discussing the Kecksburg Incident, their new report. It just came out. a couple of weeks ago in John Ventry's new book. We'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk about the Philadelphia MUFON meeting that just went down this weekend there, too, as well. Pretty big event. Pretty successful. We'll talk about that, too, as well. And the texts that were coming in was that I didn't mention Linda Moulton Howe for Alien Snowfest. Sorry, I was just reading too fast. Linda Moulton Howe. Trevor texted, you can't forget my favorite, Linda Moulton Howe. Okay, I did. I got it in. Linda Moulton Howe. Again, I'll say it again. No filler at Alien Snowfest. Let's go. Let's get the show going. Last night after the show, by the way, very, very shocking, depressing news came out. We'll be talking about that in just a second. But first, on this day in history in 1947, and it's a big one, 1947. That year just keeps popping up, doesn't it? Chuck Yeager breaks the sound barrier in the X-1 rocket plane that was built by Bell Aircraft. I have seen the X-1. I have seen it. I don't know if I touched it, but I was close. And let me tell you something. Chuck Yeager, brass cojones, like no man has ever possessed. To climb in to that tin can, that little tiny thing, man, that is just a rocket. That's all it is, man. It's just a rocket motor, a couple tiny little, it didn't even look like anything. And bolted off at almost 800 miles an hour. That is just insane. Insane. Chuck Yeager. And he continued to do it, too. He didn't just stop there. Fader facts. The largest desert in the world is Antarctica. And that is a Fader fact. All right, let's get to this news. I'm not going to mention the debates last night because it's not worth mentioning or anything. But the fact that all day today, all I could get on any of the news channels or any place else was the debate, which, whatever, that's it. I'm not going to talk about it. But this story just wasn't mentioned all day today in the mainstream media. And we've got a real conspiracy going on here, a real one. Last night, after the show, the news started to, and I got the first thing, and people were contacting me, anyway, the point is, NBA star player, retired but was coming back, Lamar Odom, is in the hospital after being found unconscious at a brothel in Nevada. And this is the story. And again, we don't do sports on the show. We do conspiracies on this show. Just listen to me for a second. Odom was found unresponsive yesterday at the Love Ranch in Crystal in Nye County, Pahrump. And Crystal is about an hour's drive northwest, picture that for a second, north and west, on the way to Area 51 of Las Vegas. Officials still haven't really said anything. Nobody knows really what is wrong with Odom, and his condition, as of this show, remains unclear. When I say a conspiracy, I'm telling you absolutely. Everybody initially saying these words: he was fine, he was healthy, he looked great, he was just hanging out, nothing was wrong, right? You get that, and you flip that story over 180 degrees, and now we're getting close to the truth. Everything that was disclosed yesterday, the Khloe Kardashian divorce, which I could care less about, but they were divorced. It was finalized. They signed the paper. Now, that's not even true. Claims are now that the family law courts are so backed up that the divorce isn't going to be final for a couple of more months. So now, she's back in the action. And she's making decisions because, she's the one that wanted, I don't care about that drama. I don't care about that social stuff. I'm talking about the untruths. and the way that this is treated. And so when you have everybody there going, hey, he was fine, nothing wrong, he was just hanging out, he got here, it was good mood, everything is cool, people hanging out with him, it was great, no drugs, no nothing, he was just a little bit of cognac, that was it. Right? And these are the reports. And then things started to come out like, anyway, this is my prediction on this whole thing. There are people involved here that don't want to get into trouble. You flip everything over that I just said, everything over. He was fine, healthy, looked great. He was just hanging out. There's nothing wrong, right? Flip it all over. We have drugs, sex, cocaine, meth, drugs, Viagra, the blue pills. We have people that, when they said no drugs were involved, immediately, I know that there was a big drug party. I know it. I'm just saying. That's what went on. There were witnesses to everything. And nobody wants to say anything. It's a trippy situation. Now, you just watch how this unfolds. You heard all of this here first, right here on the show. They're not saying anything about wait till the blood test come back. Those reports, wait till the blood stuff comes back and they get the blood back. Yep. And there's going to be witnesses to everything. And then they're going to get somebody, watch. They're going to get somebody to flip. And then the real truth is going to come out, and it's not going to be good for the whole circle of people involved. So there you go, and up to and including this herbal stuff that he was taking in copious amounts, by the way. So anyway, there you go. Conspiracy, absolutely, and look. Lamar is part of Los Angeles. For the rest of the country, you may not get that. He was in Miami for a year, whatever. Again, this isn't a sports show, but he was part of the culture out here. He's part of L.A., and he won championships, and he was just part of Los Angeles, and an all-around cool guy. Played for the Clippers before that. So it's a big deal out here. I don't know what's going on across the country. But to not have mainstream media pick it up or consider that that fiasco last night, the debate is like big news, that's where I kind of trip out. The story's getting squashed. There's more to it, and we will find out. But I have some happy news. After 35 years, Patti Smith, the Patti Smith, has been reunited with some of her most cherished, memorable items. She appeared at Dominican University this past Sunday to talk about her new book. It's called The M Train. When a 56-year-old fan, and her name was Noreen Bender, surprised her with a bag full of clothes and accessories Smith hadn't seen in nearly 4 decades. More than $40,000 worth of merchandise, equipment, gear, whatever, was stolen from her band's tour bus back in Chicago 35 years ago. And included in that theft, and now returned to her this past week, were the famous white sheer blouse that she wore on the 1978 Rolling Stone cover. Famous cover. And also returned to her was that Keith Richards T-shirt that she always wore. You always saw her on stage with that Keith Richards T-shirt. Well, that was stolen off of the tour bus. And also a bandana, a piece of cloth, a bandana that belonged to her late brother, Todd Smith. And it brought her to tears. And apparently, well, there's some backstory to it. But this fan, Noreen Bender, tried to get it to her, but just could never get in touch with Patti Smith. Patti's happy to get the stuff back, but that shirt and that T-shirt were such a part of Patti Smith, man, singing all of those songs back in the 70s. That's what she wore. She got it back after 35 years, and I think that is pretty dang cool. Good news for Julian Assange. Embassy in London. where Julian has been, closed up. He sought refuge there in 2012, and he's stuck inside. He can't split. The Met officers who had been there since he sought asylum to avoid extradition to Sweden over those rape charges and allegations, which, as you know, Julian denies. The Met said they have spent £12.5 million on police standing outside of the embassy just in case they had an Assange sightings. But they still say they are going to try to arrest him. WikiLeaks today didn't really say much, but they said that it doesn't change Julian's situation. He will remain inside of the embassy. I'm going to do this Chapman survey after the break. This is pretty cool. Oh, did you guys see that Billy the Kid? You guys see the Billy the Kid picture that surfaced? There's only one picture of Billy the Kid that is known and confirmed. Now this is number 2. And it's a picture of Billy the Kid playing croquet with the rest of his gang, the Lincoln County Regulators, in the summer of 1878. And now it's going up to auction via Kagan's. The photo was purchased for $2. $2 as a part of a bunch of other junk at a lot in Fresno, California, at a junk shop by a collector named Randy Guajaro. And this was back in 2010. Based on the sale of the only other known picture of Billy the Kid, which fetched $2.3 million back in 2010, Kagan's expects this picture to fetch around $5 million when it goes up to auction. Unbelievable. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to take a quick break. I've got some crazy news when we come back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bespoke radio for the masses. Tonight, John Ventre and Owen Eichler. We will be doing the Kecksburg Incident. And their new report just came out in John's new book back on October 3rd. Talking about that tonight. The photographs, the evidence, and the info. Interesting story. I'll be back right after this.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Patti, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping, and I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best, and that the flavors were something that I could create myself, and we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of fruity, loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code JimmyLive. That's Jimmy, L-I-V-E, for the Fadernaut special. The website, coavapor.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. Well, we are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. and you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
All right, you Fadernauts. Studio Dome has done it once again. A new Studio Dome Fadernaut special. Introducing the Studio Dome Boom Box Bluetooth speaker. It's got a rear-firing bass film subwoofer and dual 52mm main speakers. You'll never listen to your tablet or cell phone speakers again. Just click on the Studio Dome banner, use the promo code Jimmy, and you'll get the SBB for $49 and free shipping. And get a Buddy 4-port USB charger for free. That's a $19.99 value right there. And they'll throw in a Buddy in the box. It's the best deal on the net anywhere. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner, enter the promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. Everybody go to Twitter right now. I just tweeted out the picture. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, hashtag F2B. You will see it. It's getting retweeted. Is that item, that picture that you're looking at right there, is that an object? Is that the label? Is that the code from John Teeter's 5100 computer that he came back to find in our timeline? Is that it? I want everybody to take a close look at what you're looking at. You're looking at a jeweled box, and then inside that little safety box right there, is that from John Teeter's 5100 computer? Is it? Well, right now, that is up for sale on eBay. Yes. The item is listed as John Teeter, genuine piece of the IBM 5100 label. There it is. What do you think? The price? The buy it now price? $50,000. The starting bid? $10,000. You can look at it now. John Teeter, genuine piece of the IBM 5100. That is the eBay item's name. The seller says, if you are familiar with John Teeter, you may be aware that he mailed Pamela Moore, we know the story, the label from the back of the IBM 5100 as proof. They became more personally close. After Teeter's departure, Phil Fjord flew to an agreed location and met with Pamela Moore in person. She gifted him with that label right there. She gifted him. It's a cut from the actual label. As it was a gift and is a treasured item by him, that's Phil Fjord, he doesn't want to sell it, but he has decided it is something that may have expressed interest in having for research purposes. He hopes that this may go to someone who may be able to further explore and maybe advance the truth behind Teeter. The seller goes on to say, prior to enlisting my aid to sell this, Mr. Fjord had been in contact with Rick Donaldson from the same era of discussion, as well as Olaf, the administrator and owner of anomalies.net. Message me if you want more information, but please respect that I am acting as the selling agent for Mr. Fjord only. Interesting. Now, tomorrow night, I'm going to do a full-on 3-hour Fader Night, John Teeter Fader Night. Going to take your calls. I will have on tomorrow night 2 of the players in the saga that go back to day one. Okay? It's going to be a very interesting conversation tomorrow night. I haven't sat and talked about Teeter myself in a long time. It's been a couple of years. So, and I have, in speaking with some of the Teeter clan today, who may or may not be listening themselves, but all the other Teeters out there, the Teeterites, everybody out there that that has contacted me over the years about being John Teeter, about knowing John Teeter, being part of it, this, that. They're all listening right now. That's fine. I'm going to talk about all of those players tomorrow night. And what's interesting here is how, first off, that Teeter has not gone away. And what's so fascinating to me is how every time that I bring up the subject, every time that Teeter comes up and I say his name, it goes out there, people comment, church said this, church said that, did you go and listen to it? Go check out the show, he's got more Teeter news, this, that, and then the emails come in and the text and people wanting to, it's unbelievable. Now, I will say this, well, let me go back to 2 years ago when we were at Contact in the Desert, and we were sitting in the cabin out in the middle of the desert, and it was myself, it was Space Boy, helped me out here. I know Walter was there, Solana was there, Rick Sinnott, I believe, was there, and I'm trying to think. There's maybe one or two other people there in the hotel room, and we talked about Teeter for a couple hours till the wee hours of the morning. And this is my point about John Teeter. No matter what, no matter who says what or what claims have been made or who says they did that or whatever, nobody has been busted. Not one person. There has been no evidence to come forward. There has been nobody that has been narked out. Nobody's turned somebody in. None of the photographic evidence, nothing. The time machine, the models that would have had to have been made if it was a hoax. Any of that stuff, anything at all. The original designs of the Army badges, the original paperwork, the original manuals, the instructions, the people that had to be involved, all of that, it goes so far and wide. But none of it has ever surfaced. Nobody's been busted. I need you to, my loyal listeners, to understand what the definition of hoax is. Hoax is not legal. If you conspire with somebody else or by yourself to perpetrate a hoax, you're doing it because you're lying. And there's other reasons why you would do it. Doesn't matter. Fame, fortune, money, blackmail, whatever. Okay, but that's what it implies. And in this case, in the John Teeter saga, nobody has been busted. Not one. And what's funny about the stories, and I mean, I've had some pretty credible things come my way. I was talking about it earlier today. Some pretty solid stuff that I've never talked about on the air. I had, without giving away too much here because there's legal stuff that is involved, I was contacted by a reporter, a journalist, a reporter outside of our circles. Okay? With information. And the information that was there, and I can't really go into details because of the ongoing court situation that is involved with this. Again, nothing to do with the paranormal. But John Teeter's name came up in this investigation, and this reporter had never heard of John Teeter, doesn't know anything about the paranormal, doesn't know what's going on, but it comes up, and this person, being a reporter, goes and starts to look into John Teeter, and the next thing you know, my name comes up, only just in a simple Google search, but and it was recent, so I get contacted, and this the information that they presented to me about who was bringing up John Teeter, it freaked me out. Nothing to do with the paranormal, and it was so outside of the other people that were making claims. Okay, he had this software guy up in Santa Maria or Santa Clara, and he's doing his thing, and there's some people out in Florida, and another crew up in New York, and of course here in the San Fernando Valley in North Hollywood, there was a bunch of people that it's really funny. A couple of people from Phoenix that all claim, and some of them seem legit. And then I get contacted from this reporter, and this reporter telling me what had surfaced through this entirely separate legal investigation way outside of not only California, but way outside of the paranormal. And they were shocked to hear that this was coming into play with this. And I can't really say what it was about. I will at some point, though. I will. Not tonight. But then if what this reporter was saying was true, and that seemed pretty solid, and it involved time travel. I'm letting you know right now. It involved some crazy patent technology and some other stuff. Again, outside of the paranormal. But how this time travel was occurring and who was making these claims. And it was a very small part, insignificant part, really, of this huge investigation that was going on. And there you go. So anyway, but if that part of the story was, had teeth to it, then that means everything else that was being said to me from all directions was all BS. And these were people that were begging me for attention and to believe stories. And just, man, you've got to believe me, man. And it's ongoing to this day. John Teeter is something that will not go away. And until somebody gets caught, until somebody comes forward, there has to be something somewhere. Now we have this item up on eBay. It's the closest thing that we have right now to anything real. But going back to the evidence that I had presented back to everybody back at the hotel room, just to repeat myself, is there is a fascination for me as I look at this because I have a certain amount of technical background. Okay? I do. I have a strong technical background. I know what it takes to create drawings because I did those. That's what I did. I did technical illustrations for Bell Labs. I did that. I know what it takes in the 1980s to put pen and ink to technical illustrations and create typefaces and to put manuals together and to do blow-up drawings and cutaway drawings. It back then, that stuff is hand-drawn. That is artistic stuff. And so to do that, you have to have other people. It's just not an artist drawing. It's not. Now we are conspiring for a hoax because there would have had to have been artists. Then you have to have those illustrations photographed in a darkroom. You have to have negatives made. And then you have to turn around and create plates. And you have to turn around and print. Back then, it was a difficult thing to get this kind of stuff done. Computers weren't then what they are today. It was a whole other thing. And to go and to produce these models, you have to listen to me for a second. That model that's in that photograph, if it's a real time machine, it is what it is. But if it's a model and it's a hoax to be created, now you've got labels that have to be made. You have to go through the same processes to make labels. You have to make negatives. There has to be a darkroom involved. There has to be a darkroom person involved, a photo technician. That's got to go back out to another company that somewhere, could be the same, inside the same company, but another department that is going to make the rub-off letters or to create the labels to have them made. And then those have to be affixed, and they have to be correct, and they have to be worded. And none of that evidence has ever surfaced. Nobody has come forward. You would have thought that there would have been a jealous girlfriend that got broke up with, a jealous boyfriend that got broke up with, somebody that got their feelings hurt, somebody that didn't get paid, somebody that was owed money, somebody that wrecked somebody's car, something, somewhere, somebody said, you know what, screw you, I'm turning you in for the Teeter hoax. And I just left your house with the time machine, and I'm going to the LA Times with this. Never happened. Not even a single piece of paper. Hasn't happened. The ability to go back and chase and trace all of that evidence back to a ground zero hasn't happened. Anybody that comes forward and says, hey, you know, I did it, and I had a model builder buddy of mine build that. Okay, name the model builder and have them produce it. Put it to bed. Because if you're really behind it, don't you want to be that guy? Of course you do. Now, you can say that you're that guy because you want to get your name out there, but you don't have any proof to back it up. Well, you know what? That's ego and self-serving. But this is what is the fascinating part about Teeter. And I can go on and on and on. There's like 4 or 5 different general areas here that would require multiple people involved. If you're going to create a document and with the technical aspects and the illustrations that are involved with that, then you have to take it to somebody else to have it done, to have it printed, to have it made, to have that right there. There's 2 or 3 people just for a page, a piece of paper. To create that model, think about it. There's multiple people. You have to have a technical staff. You have to have somebody writing this material too, as well, and looking at the physics side of it and the science side of it. Everything that Teeter had posted, too, as well. The singularity aspect of things, the miniature black holes, the gravity clocks, all of that. That's a whole other thing. That comes from another mindset. So where's that person or persons? The information about the 5100 computer and how it interfaced with the cable into IBM mainframes and that information. That and to fit it all into a story, it is complex, and nobody has been busted. And that is where this story gets it will always have legs. It will always have legs until somebody's busted. This story is true. And that's where I stand. If anybody wants to come forward and argue with me about it, go ahead. Call in. I'll argue till the cows come home, because everybody out there is either lying about their involvement with Teeter, or it's theory and it's an opinion, and you are entitled to that. The John Teeter black hole, that John Teeter rabbit hole, you can go out and you can jump into it at any point, and you can go out and you can try to find out anything that I have just laid out here, of which is about 1% of the information that's out there about John Teeter. People have spent so much time and compiling evidence. I have gone through, man, I got this guy that sent me this whole thing that had so many people involved that I knew that he was claiming that were part of this conspiracy. I'm talking about, people that I worked with. And I mean, just tying all of this information together, but it didn't have anything to back it up with. There's nothing factual, nothing there, no evidence, just a series of coincidences, and that's it. So anyway, See, I could do Teeter for the next 2.5 hours. You guys want me to do Teeter for the next 2.5 hours? I certainly could, but we have John Ventre and Owen Eichler coming in here in a second. I did want to get to one of the most fascinating stories that I wanted to that I was going to talk to Seth Shostak tonight. Oh, you know what? Before I get to that, well, let's do this. Let's look at the studio clock. Okay. The results of the second annual Chapman Survey of American Fears has been released. Collected from a representative sample of 1,541 Americans over the age of 18. And yes, the results are in. What do Americans fear? The thing that scared Americans most this year was corruption of government officials. 81.2%. 79.5% of Americans said they feared cyber terrorism. That's a good fear. And 77.9% feared corporate tracking of personal information. 52% are afraid of robots that can make their own decisions and take their own actions. That is a big, big, big chunk of society when those numbers are like that. 81, 79, 77%. Over half are afraid of autonomous robots. But 41%, and this is where it gets good, 41% believe in ghosts. 26.5% of Americans right now say they believe in the living and the dead can communicate with each other. 18.1% of Americans right now, today, believe that aliens have come to Earth in modern times. 20.3%, slightly higher, say that aliens definitely visited Earth in ancient times. Fascinating survey. Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, and we're going to cover this tomorrow. But this is really big news, and I don't know how to take this. But a star named KIC 8462852 has been found with a highly curious transit signal. What is a transit signal? Transit signal is the amount of light that is emitting off of a body that has a planet or something else in its orbit that is interrupting the light signal. That's a transit signal. Makes sense, right? Okay, so wrap your brain around that for a second. Hold on to that. In a paper submitted to the Journal of Monthly Notices of the Royal Astronomical Society, astronomers, including citizen scientists from the Planet Hunters crowdsourcing program, report that I'm quoting here, over the duration of the Kepler mission, KIC 8462852 was observed to undergo irregularly shaped aporeotic dips in flux down to below the 20% level. Now, what does that mean? Follow-up studies focus on two interesting transit events at KIC 8462852. One that was detected between days 788 and 795 of the Kepler mission and between days 1510 and 1570. The researchers have tagged these events as D800 and D1500, respectively. The D800 event appears to have been a single transit, causing a star brightness to drop off 15%, whereas D1500 was a burst of several transits, possibly indicating a clump of different objects, forcing a brightness dip of up to 22%. To cause such dips in brightness, these transiting objects must be huge. And this is according to the report. The research paper only focuses on natural and known possible causes of this mystery transit events around 846-2852. A second paper is currently being drafted. Hold on to your seats. Buckle on. The new one is to investigate a completely different transit scenario, one that focuses around the possibility of a mega engineering project created by an advanced alien civilization. And I'm quoting here direct. This is big news. They can't explain it. Some of the ideas and actually ones that they actually dismiss. But right now they're trying to focus on something natural. They're trying to they want to stay with something known right now. And the only thing that well, there's a couple, but one of them is that maybe a planet blew up and we're looking at chunks of planet, a lot of it, enveloping around this planet, this star, I should say. And maybe that's it. But they've never seen anything like this before. They have right now, they've cataloged about the numbers, about 150,000 stars that they've cataloged. And they are able to, with Kepler's software, they are able to monitor just about everything that Kepler's looking at all at the same time. I mean, processing power. They are looking for the slightest. And out there, you got to remember, it's clean. It's clean. There's no clouds, nothing in space. It's clean. So they are able to detect the most minute things instantly. That's why we've discovered these last 2,000 planets. So Kepler's looking for this. That's all it does. And everything that it has found up to this point is in a normal sense. The light dips. The transit is consistent. It's this. There's things about all of this that they're able to measure, and everything is smooth and everything is cool. Not this time. Not with KIC 846-2852. They're flipping the frig out. And for them to go to the comments that are flying all over the place from inside this circle of astronomers is they're jumping at this now. They're actually thinking that there is some kind of a giant a fleet of space stations, spaceships around this planet. Some kind of, and I'm quoting here, the possibility of a mega engineering project created by an advanced alien civilization. Absolutely insane. Absolutely. This is Fade to Black. When I come back, John Ventre is here. Owen Eichler. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Crazy week, huh, here on Fade to Black? Let's do some more of it right after this. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air, to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you and Hillary for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio right with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. All right. The Kecksburg Incident. It for years since 1965, we haven't had any real answers. It has been one of the most disinfoed, lied about, blocked cases that we have in ufology. I have followed it. I know something landed. I know something that came into the atmosphere. I know that. I believe that. The evidence is there. Too many witnesses. The way that the military came in and shut the case down. Apparently, this object even turned and made a maneuver over Kecksburg before it crash landed in Kecksburg in 1965. Well, new evidence is out. Owen Eichler has been researching Kecksburg for 50 years. He is an independent researcher who has extensively studied the 1965 UFO event, and he has degrees in mechanical, electrical, heat transfer engineering, and has spent nearly 50 years researching the event at Kecksburg. And John Ventre is the Pennsylvania State Director for the Mutual UFO Network and is the author of novels like 1221, 2012, A Prophecy, The Day After 2012, UFOs Over Pennsylvania, Aphosis 2029, The Alternative History of Mankind. He has appeared on Discovery Channel's UFOs Over the Earth, the History Channel's UFO Hunters, and Anderson Cooper's show, Destination America, and History Channel's Hangar One, The UFO Files. His new book is A Case for UFOs, and it was released back on October 3rd. His website, johnventre.com. I would like to welcome to the program, back to the program, our good friend John Ventre, and for the first time, Owen Eichler. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me back on. And let me say quickly hello to Mary Beth, who's homesick.
Hello, Mary Beth, who's homesick. Owen, are you there, sir? Owen? Okay, I've got Owen. He was here, and now he is gone. How strange. Okay, well, John, just stay with me. Let's see if I can, Rita, there's a number below the number that you just called. Call that number and get that one straightened out. Very strange.
I think the Men in Black got him.
Yeah, he was just here. I just spoke to him. So maybe he's got some phone problems. Well, okay, while we're waiting for Owen to come back with us, John, and before we get started, I want to talk to you about a couple of things. One, it was great hanging out with you a couple of weeks ago here in Southern California, the Hangar One Hangout, the MUFON Symposium. It was a great event, and it was really cool for me on a personal level to present all of you MUFON cats back to MUFON, because Hangar One is their show. You know what I mean? And to get up there and to do that and just go, you know what, MUFON, here is your cast and crew to your show. That was a pretty great event, and they were so happy, and the applause and everything, because I know that it meant a lot to them. Wasn't it a special night for yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think people who watch the show think that, like, we're all there on the set together and we're all filming, but that's not the case. Usually you only get to meet one or two people. So, in 2 seasons, I had never met you, and I had never met Dwight or Melissa. So I got to meet you all.
Yeah, exactly, and you're totally right about that. When an audience sees a show like that, they would naturally assume, and I understand why, that we're all together in a bunch of dressing rooms and makeup trailers and hanging out on the set and eating food and producing a show. That's not the case. Logistically, it's a lot of work to get a show like that together, and everybody's in different parts of the country. And everybody has their own schedules and so forth. So it's impossible to get everybody together at one place at one time. All right, I think I got Owen here. Owen, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you just missed your fabulous intro.
Oh.
You were there and then you were gone. But welcome to the show, Owen.
Thank you.
Okay, now, John has been through this before, but Owen, I will just say this. I do this disclaimer with every first-time guest on Fade to Black, which is, Owen, it's just you and I and John sitting in my living room on my couch having a conversation. We're going to start as friends. We're going to end as friends. Wherever the conversation goes, it goes. Let's just have a good time. Are you ready? And that's the disclaimer. Is that heavy? Not really.
Yeah, that works for me.
Now, we were just talking about the Hangar One hangout out here, but also, John, you just came off of a pretty successful weekend for Philadelphia MUFON. I saw all the photographs. Everybody was there except for me, and it looked like it was a tremendous turnout, and I mean a successful event, pretty big event. How'd it go?
Yeah, it was our 8th annual UFO conference in Philadelphia, and this was our biggest and our best. And I think part of that was because we hosted the MUFON Symposium last year, so a lot of local people discovered Pennsylvania MUFON, and a lot of them came to our conference over the weekend. But it was great. I mean, we had a mini Hangar One hangout with Dolan, Michael Barra, and myself. But we also had Nick Pope, Paula Harris. I mean, it was really it was one of our best lineups, and just the way the hotel and everything is set up for the vendors, the conference. We have a cocktail hour with hors d'oeuvres. It was absolutely great. And in a couple of weeks, we do the Pittsburgh conference. That comes up November 14th, and that's on the Pittsburgh side of the state. So we do 3, and then April is Erie. So we move around the state. We get new members and new investigators, and we really make it comfortable for people to come out and report their cases. And I really believe we've accomplished that.
Well, I had also read that there were people from around the world that were there, and from different states, and you're also going to probably have the same thing in Pittsburgh because it's on the border there. So you would have people from, I guess, Ohio, maybe even Tennessee or the Virginias. I mean, is that close enough to get into Pittsburgh too as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually draw people from Texas, Florida, Canada, and for the conference we just had in Philly, there was one guy that flew in from Brazil. That's incredible. All the way from Brazil to go to our state conference in Philly.
Yeah, it looked like a pretty successful event. Next year I'll be there, I promise.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you.
Okay, now let's move on a little bit. We have a lot to talk about tonight. I read the report. Compelling. I got your new photograph, the new image that you sent today. I will bust that out here into Twitter in just a second. And but it was released in your new book, Case for UFOs. back on October 3rd. So tell me about the book first before we jump into Kecksburg specifically.
Yeah, what I did was I finally, after writing 5 books, The Case for UFOs is my 6th book, I wanted to take everything that I learned in this field over 18 years and put out a book that is easy to follow, easy to read. But the one thing I do, I'm real meticulous. I read a lot, but then I'll write down certain bullet points, certain things. I might read a book and only come away with 1 or 2 items, but I keep track of those. So chapter 2 in the book is called Do You Know, Should You Know? It's 254 bullet points, little short paragraphs of things you don't know in this field. And I'll be honest with you, if you read that, and obviously everything else in the book, I think this book in particular, you will learn more about ufology than you've ever known or ever learned from any other book. And I believe it should be required reading for every MUFON field investigator. So it's everything I know for 18 years, and it's everything important in the field, 111 photos and documents, and like I said, it's everything I know on the topic.
Well, I want to bring in Owen here. Owen, you've been studying the case for 50 years. I don't think there's any question about an object. Something came down in Kecksburg. Too many witnesses, the eyewitness accounts, the drawings, something was there. It was very specific. And for it to make turns in the sky, we'll talk about all of that. But what got you involved in the case initially?
Well, it's quite a sight to see when you're involved in, at my age, at that young age, I had just started piloting planes with a good friend of mine. And just seeing this thing go across the sky absolutely takes your breath away, because my view was of something about a mile away and maybe a mile high, somewhere on a maybe 40-degree angle up. And you look at it and you think to yourself, if you're piloting, have you ever piloted?
Have I? I've certainly been the passenger in a private plane sitting next to a pilot. Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. No, I've flown a plane. Sure, I have. Yeah, I'm not supposed to say that, am I? Without a pilot's license?
Oh, you can say that.
Okay. Yes, I have flown a plane, and it was nerve-wracking, but yes, I have.
Well, you have to keep your eye on many things, and one of the things is studying distance, time, flight, other aircraft in the air, speeds, things about your own plane, knowing your takeoff speed, your landing speed. So those things all come to you naturally after you get enough hours in the plane. And so when I looked at this green fireball going through the sky, the immediate thing that struck me was the horizontal flight, which was incredible, because anything that would be spewing off that amount of flame, you wouldn't think it could go very far, certainly not within my distance, because I had about a 3 to 4 mile observation.
And how long how long did your observation last?
Oh, I have gone over that in my head many, many times and bounced it across a landmark that was in my area, which was a long bridge at our local Pennsylvania Turnpike. And I can say I probably saw it for a total of 30 to 40 seconds.
A long time.
And I
put
that in the back of my mind and tried to do some calculations on speed and time.
Okay, and we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so back to what you originally saw. So you're watching this. Did you see it take the turn?
There was no turn in the area we saw it. It never made any turns after it got past me until it got to Kecksburg and made a turn, which was 17 miles away. It made a turn in that general area, that vicinity, before it came down.
Did it appear to you at the time to be under an intelligence, under some type of intelligent control?
No, you couldn't tell that by straight level flight. No. The view you have of it is a large green fireball with the object inside the fireball, of course, with a leading edge, and trailing behind the leading edge is nothing but flame of various colors, but predominantly green, a bright green, followed by an orange and a purple and some yellow, wisping colors. There was no tumbling effect, as though something was out of control. So I could say that in some manner you could say it might have been controlled because it wasn't tumbling, which you would expect. If it was something completely out of control, you would expect it to be turning and tumbling and, giving you an impression it would crash soon.
Did you think at the time, I know you've been asked this and you've thought about this so many times, but this is the first time I've had the opportunity to interview you myself. You're a pilot, so you know everything that's in the sky. That's what all of us did as young men, right? We know planes. And so now you're looking, is the first thing that is going through your mind is trying to correlate with another type of terrestrial craft and trying to identify what you were seeing?
Of course. And in our time period, we grew up around a lot of Air Force bases. At those times, we had flying boxcars in the air. We had helicopters in the air. Jets were breaking the sound barrier. So you're very much attuned to what is going on in your area.
Right. And did it appear, you mentioned speed, and you've been trying to calculate speed. Was it, how fast do you think it was going? Was it slow? Was it like ripping?
The first thing that came to my mind was a very slow speed.
Right.
But slow is relevant because it was clocked and estimated at about 1,000 miles per hour when it came into Ohio.
Right.
However, when I saw it and calculating my distances, I have to estimate it somewhere around 200 miles an hour.
Really?
And I based that on knowing how fast at the time we were flying Piper Club planes.
Right.
And I know the speeds of those, the cruising speeds, and it was pretty darn close to the cruising speed of a Piper Cub, and maybe a little bit faster, which would have been normally around 150 to 200 miles an hour, although a Piper Cub won't go 200.
Right. I was just thinking about the small planes that I've been in. 150 miles an hour is about what you do.
Max.
Max. Now, take me back to that moment, though. What went through your mind? Were you at a holy crap moment, or were you thinking more rational thoughts?
Well, I'd say for the first few seconds, it was just a spellbound awe looking at it.
Right.
And I called my friend's attention to it, and we all just stared at it. But I had a chance to stop and think a little bit right away. What in the world could that be? It wasn't something that came to you it came to you by asking yourself question after question. It was just automatic. You're looking at it and you're saying, this looks like there's something wrong, but it's in total controlled flight. It's not bouncing, moving anywhere. So in answer to your question, at first, yes, it takes you away for a while where you're just staring. But after that, when you think about it, and I had the opportunity to reflect upon my time in an airplane and being around airports. My other friends that were around me, they didn't have that experience I did.
And were you thinking the other kind of morose thoughts as well, which is if there's somebody inside of that, they're burning up?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes, of course, because we were thinking after it had gone out of sight, we were thinking to ourselves, my God, there's a plane crash or something going to happen. And we all dispersed and went to our homes, and it wasn't too long after that we heard there was an object that crashed in Kecksburg. And the first thing that happened in my mind was, how in the world could something with that much flame and travel that far and in level flight, how could it get all the way to Kecksburg, which was 17 miles?
Right. And were you...
And in a matter of minutes as well.
Right. And what about your personal life back then? Was it Were you involved in ufology, NICAP, or were you reading any Don Kehoe books? Were you part of that in 1965, or did that not enter the situation for you?
Well, at the time, I had always been involved on my personal level for interest in the Gemini, Apollo, and the Space Shuttle programs. I actually did my first science project in 7th grade on the Apollo missions and to the moon. And so I'd already had been kind of self-educated.
Well, weren't all of us, all of us kids, all of us boys back then in the 60s, we all had our favorite astronaut, right? We all had our cat. We had our favorite things. And I was always a Leroy Gordon Cooper guy. But we all had that fascination. But the UFO side of it, was it there for you? Did you think it could be off-world or not?
No, I never thought that at all. As a matter of fact, I can still recall seeing the Sputnik satellite go over. Many of us, as we were kids, I don't know about you, but we had gone out at night to watch a satellite come over. And in my mind then, at that point, never even thought about aliens, although I had watched and continue still to watch a lot of the old movies on UFOs and aliens. My favorite is The Day the Earth Stood Still, and especially the part of that movie where that poor old guy is out in the middle of the boat pulling on the cord and the motor won't start.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you on that. You know what's funny, Owen? We talk about the 50s and 60s films on this show all the time. And I'm still a Forbidden Planet kind of guy.
Oh, what a great film.
Yeah, what a great film. Well, now...
I was going to say, hey, Jimmy, my favorite was The Thing. I just love that movie.
You know what? And the one with John Carpenter was actually pretty good, too.
What was it?
The John Carpenter, the new version of The Thing that came out in like 1980.
Oh, yes.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, but I love the original where they're in Antarctica and it didn't shapeshift. But to me, I just love that movie. That was so cool.
Yeah.
And the reporter was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reporter was great, and when they were out on the ice, at the beginning of the movie, right, and they're out on the ice, and you see the shape of it, that just still to this day, man, the great cinema.
And you know what? If you remember that movie, there were a couple of scenes when they were on the ice. Do you remember when the reporter wanted to report it, and the captain said to him that this is Air Force business, and he completely controlled it and told him he could not report it, and that's exactly what happens today. You're not going to tell the people because it's theirs, and they're not going to allow the news out.
Well, and going back to the way that they dealt with the day that the Earth stood still, with the reporters showing up and how DC was dealing with it and so forth, I thought that came from somewhere. I always did. I always felt in the back of my mind that was a government written script. I don't know why, but
well, I can add to that.
Yeah,
I could add to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
My thought on that was I have watched TCM movie channel quite a lot. There's been a lot of talk about those early movies. They were all centered around the propaganda to oppose the Soviet Union's propaganda. And that's what brought about all those films, because they wanted to blame it on the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union wanted to blame it on America.
Well, and
but there really was a Project Mockingbird.
Yes.
If you looked at Project Mockingbird was the CIA involvement in Hollywood and actually writing scripts the way they wanted things told.
Well,
it's absolutely incredible. But the other thing I wanted to say was at the end of the movie, when James Arness, the Thing, is coming down that hallway and they electrocute him. Do you remember the reporter was getting ready to take a picture and he faints, right?
Right.
And there was one other scene where they threw gasoline on him, lit him on fire, and the captain says to the reporter, "Did you get the picture?" And he goes, "No, I was too busy." But think about UFO cases. All the time we ask witnesses, "Did you think to grab your camera and take a picture?" And they say no, because we're stunned by it. That movie had so many scenes that were so real that the way people would actually react.
Well, and all of the Hollywood legend behind the day that the Earth stood still, that script was sent back to D.C. and modified, and then sent back here. Okay, now this is how you're really going to do it, and that script went back and forth to Washington D.C. a few times to make sure that the message was presented in a certain way. Again, Hollywood legend, but and UFO legend, but I believe that to be true, and which takes us to Kecksburg because of the disinfo that is involved around that case and the lies, lawsuits, court, everything was involved with Kecksburg, and everybody was caught lying, lost files. I mean, everything around Kecksburg meant that it was a real incident, but we just couldn't get to the truth of it. Now, I want to go back to the day that it happened. Owen, when the reports were, the Army came in, there was fatigued soldiers in uniform, cordoned off the area. They brought in trucks, and it was removed. How much of that is true? And were you there? Did you actually pack up and go to Kecksburg?
Well, I was only 13, Jimmy, but
okay.
I can tell you in 1976, I worked at a company in Kecksburg, a bottling company. I was a service manager, and we had accounts from West Virginia all the way up into New York. And at the time, I was supervisor, manager over union employees, and a lot of people that worked at this company also are residents of Kecksburg. So in 1976, I had my first opportunity to interview, if you want to call it that, because we actually worked with each other.
Right.
The people who were there, including the firemen and witnesses. So at that time, I got probably as good of information as anybody could have gotten, even Stan Gordon at that point.
So, yeah, that's it's a scant 10 years later, so it must have been easy to do, and the whole town probably saw something.
Well, even at that time, I was told that a lot of people said they saw nothing, but they were winking at me. And so it was quiet. And I got, getting to answer your question, I got out of the people there that I worked with that, yes, there were many people there. Many people in vehicles. I can't speak specifically about there being a so-called command center, although there's a lot of evidence pointing to that. As a matter of fact, if you were to bring this to a public hearing, even now, I'll take that back. Now we have a lot of dead witnesses. But at the time, if you'd have brought to a public hearing, there would have been a ruling with no question whatsoever that something did happen there. But that never came up.
Well, let's start to peel apart the case a little bit here. I want to talk about, the NASA trying to say that it was a Russian satellite, and now in your report, you bring up a couple of interesting things about that totally ixnays and takes that part of it out. So let's visit that part first. Was it a Russian satellite?
Who are you addressing, Jimmy?
I'm going to you first, Owen.
Okay. And your question again?
Was it a Russian satellite?
Absolutely not.
And why?
I have, before I met and got together with John, I had studied almost everything you could study in any aircraft that was made at the time, from just after 1950 on through 1970. Every available picture, every available news source that I could find, and I had never, ever seen anything as described by Stan Gordon and any of the other witnesses until I ran across this MK2 reentry vehicle. And I can say with absolute certainty, unless somebody shows me something different, there is nothing that compares to it.
I am describe the MK2. I'm actually publishing right now the image that you sent me earlier today. What was the MK2?
And the MK2 was a vehicle, if I can describe it for you. It would look like a funnel without the spout. Now, if you can imagine taking a funnel out of your kitchen drawer and putting it on the counter, the large part of the funnel would be on the counter. The tapered or cone shape of the funnel would be on the top, of course. The bottom was made out of heavy copper and with some alloying metals. I have several documents that tell me that there was some beryllium in it and a few other things, but basically a heavy, thick shield to act as what's called a heat sink shield. Now that's the bottom. However, that is the leading edge. In other words, it flew with the big, broad part of the funnel forward. The back end of it was a cone shaped on somewhere around a 42-degree angle, and that would consist then of the other side of the funnel. The outside part of the cone was made of stainless steel, as I think you have read, and coated with a copper cladding, and then coated again with a platinum coating to help take off some additional heat.
The object, as I read in your report here, was that it could be controlled and could be turned. I find that interesting, and explain to me how that would work. And it would certainly explain the turns that the object seemed to have made. But I look at the object and I find a hard time trying to figure out exactly how that would be done.
Okay, this would be a technical discussion of maybe a minute or two. Is
Sure.
that appropriate?
Yep, I have a smart audience. You let her rip, Tater Chip. Let's go.
Okay. The front end, or what I call the front end, the blunt end of the aircraft, was the heavier end. And that means the center of gravity of that heavier end would be towards the larger end of the funnel. Do you follow that?
Yes.
Okay. That means internally you can arrange with weights so that you can, first off, control roll by having a heavy counterweight slung off the center axis of the vehicle. That heavy counterweight would keep it in a level, controlled flight the way you want it to go. As far as turning, there's another counterweight that works off that axis, and it can spin either left or right as it goes through the air. The idea of that is when you turn that spinning counterweight, if you turned it, say, to the right, the craft will actually tilt. And when it tilts, it turns directions for two reasons. The first reason is the oncoming atmosphere is catching a leading edge of that blunt end and moving it. The second and very important part, which explains level flight, is that the base was actually an aerodynamic surface. And now here's the last part of the technical explanation. The reason it flies is as it goes through the air with the blunt end forward and the cone end in the back, it can never roll, it could never flip. That it will always be centered and going forward. And on a tilt, if you tilt it either up or down, that blunt end surface is actually an aerodynamically sound wing where the air will fly over the top of the blunt end and the air will go underneath it. It acts just like a wing. And here's an example. if you have a large aircraft, an aircraft, say a 747, and the air in the front of the vehicle as it goes forward, the aircraft, it'll go over top the nose cone or the nose of the aircraft much faster than it does underneath. And that's why you see small wings on these large aircraft, because the front end or nose of the aircraft acts as a wing and picks up the aircraft.
That would make sense. Now, also there was control jets on these two. Were the control jets actually, would that be used in the here in the atmosphere, or would that be used when it's orbiting?
They would have been used for orbiting. Now, we talk about the jets being seen by witnesses, and we all talk about that. What it comes down to is, Jimmy, if you were driving down the road and your brakes failed in your car, if you're aware enough, you'll reach for your emergency brake at least to try to slow you down, would you not?
Yep, of course.
That's what we feel happened here. When they knew it was coming in for a landing, and especially if they didn't want a problem with what we talk about later on with something on board, they're going to try everything they can, including firing those jets, to slow it down as fast as they can with whatever they have to get it to make a landing that's suitable enough to preserve whatever's inside of it.
Well, it seemed like through all of the eyewitness accounts that the object itself, it wasn't banged up. It didn't crash. It was still in one piece, wasn't it?
Correct.
Now, what about okay, let's back up. In your report, the drawing that is here from Jerry Betters, with the truck, with the flatbed, the object on the back of this truck looks amazingly like a lot of different things, but it does look like the MK2. Is that... how do I want to say this? It looks like it's in one piece on the back of this truck, is what I'm saying. So it looks like
true.
It looks like it landed. And am I saying that in an incorrect way?
Well, no, because any landing is a good landing. So I wouldn't say that was an incorrect statement. The question comes up, though, was the mechanism by which it landed. In other words, what I'm saying is, we, at this point, we've been told by witnesses that there was a trench of so many feet long, which would indicate that it came down on the heavy or the front end, the blunt nose end. And that would tell us that it might have skidded for a while. At this point, we wouldn't know. No one's going to know unless they did some forensic analysis, the Air Force and the other people who recovered it. Nobody would know if it would have done any kind of flips or turns. But it does suggest that if it had left a trench and it wound up with the smaller funnel end buried in a hillside, it would have had to have at least flipped once to get in there.
Well,
and I would like to say as well, since there wasn't a tremendous amount of damage and no debris field whatsoever,
right,
you have to assume that it came in all one piece.
Yeah, that's my point. How could they have done a controlled landing? Because there would have been a debris field. There would have been nothing left. Nothing left of it. It would have been, broken apart and destroyed. But it looks to me, and from all of the other eyewitness testimony, is that this was in one piece, and so it was some kind of controlled landing. But how could they do that without parachutes, I would think, number one, or number two, some kind of retro rockets or something else to completely slow the descent?
Well, you have to consider this is a pretty robust vehicle. It weighed somewhere in the neighborhood, when it was carrying a W-49 warhead, atomic warhead,
right.
It weighed somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,500 pounds. Now, we contend there was probably a spy camera on it. And if you take some weights off of it, well, maybe you're down to about, 2,200 pounds. But it's still almost equivalent to a cannonball coming down. So you might not be able to say it was a controlled landing. We'll say a controlled impact. Let's make a distinction there.
Right.
There's a difference between a landing and a impact. I'd say the landing was controlled, but the impact was not. The impact amounts to...
Owen, how fast do you think it actually hit? You know, it crashed through the trees. It's slowing down. You got the resistance from the atmosphere. When it actually hit the trees in the ground, what do you think it was doing? 80, 90, 100 miles an hour?
I'm thinking 50 or 40. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually it would slow itself down.
Well, you got to figure a mass that big, 2,300 pounds. That would be somewhere equivalent to 2,300 pounds, about the weight of a pickup truck. And if you see pickup trucks go off the road at 70, 80 miles an hour and crash into trees, they don't go very far.
Yeah. Well, and you know what another good example is? I've done a lot of research on asteroids. The asteroids come into our atmosphere at usually around 30,000 miles an hour, and they lose 90% of their velocity before they strike the ground. So they go from 30,000 miles an hour to 3,000 miles an hour. And they're not flat on one end like this is, which would really slow you down. They're more round or oblong or whatever shape they could be, and tumbling. This had that flat surface that was resisting the air and really cutting its speed the further it went.
And we make an analogy, Jimmy, John and I do, that if you're driving down the road yourself in a car, I like to use cars because it's something we can all identify with. If you stick your hand out the window at 60 mile an hour, you can feel a noticeable difference on your hand. And even if you let go of the steering wheel with your hand outside that window, that vehicle's going to turn over, it'll turn a little bit, say over a couple of 100 feet. You'll notice the difference. So it only takes a little bit of air pressure to move things one way or the other.
Well, I think the evidence is compelling, and it's in the report, and I'm inclined to kind of lean in this direction. But then there's a couple of other things that we need to address. And first off, what about the hieroglyphics and what was clearly on the bottom of this craft, and what is on the back of this flatbed truck in Jerry Better's drawing clearly shows symbols. I don't see those symbols on the MK2 images. So where are these symbols coming from?
And are you addressing me again?
Yeah, Owen, go ahead. If you don't hear John speaking, which is rare, get on it.
No, he's the big boy in the room. He's the gorilla in the room.
Okay, so let's talk about these hieroglyphics. What were they?
Well, let's say this. Any of the pictures we have so far only show the MK2. One is a unflown model, and the other ones are in holding cradles. All those cradles are covering up the area that we would have expected to see any kind of markings. Now, my contention has been these vehicles were manufactured by General Electric. They were taken to various places. Vandenberg, they were taken to Johnson Island, they were taken to England under Project Emily. And at some point, somewhere along the line, somebody has to identify them, especially before they're launched, with what's on them, because you don't want a whole bunch of people going in somewhere and not being prepared to understand what they're dealing with. So my contention has been that those markings on the side were intended to be undecipherable so that only the people who were interested in recovering it would know what the symbols mean, which means maybe somebody got a little black book in their back pocket of what was marked on it the last time it was either moved or launched. And moving forward on the conversation, John and I have been discussing some way to get back and see how we can identify what the military might have used for markings. For example, I ran across something just recently that shows that if you recall, if you were ever in the military or knew people in the military, they would always have some kind of a identification or patch that would say what they did, whether they were able to, say, start a campfire or fire a cannon or operate some kind of special piece of equipment. Their patch would have some identification on that of what they did.
Okay.
And so recently what we've made is a connection with how aircraft, at least back in the 1970s, were identified, and their projects were identified. They used systems of stars, circles, scribblings, different things to kind of identify the work they did and who they were. So the bottom line is that we have to feel that had to have been some kind of identification marker so people would know in case two of these come down and one had a bomb on it and one didn't, what were they dealing with, so they could arrange for evacuation or bring in a special team and those types of concerns.
Well, wouldn't...
Also, if you look at it, it has that white band around the base, the same as the Jerry Better's picture. And you could see on it there are a number of, like, knobs and a place to kind of clamp onto it. And that white band was what was attached to the Atlas rocket. And who knows, how it was released. Does it get scratched up at that point? Because that's where it's being held onto the Atlas rocket. And then also, it crashed through the trees. Who knows what markings were left on it as it was coming through branches and trees. But when you look at the picture and you look at the Jerry Better's picture, by God, it's it.
Well, but I have to play devil's advocate here on this one point, though, because it seemed that the eyewitnesses were all adamant about hieroglyphics and symbols being around the perimeter of the base of this object, and that was pretty clear. But the point that I want to make is, if those markings were there before re-entry, like Owen was just saying, some kind of identification, manufacturing marks or whatever, why wouldn't those get burnt up and removed in the atmosphere during re-entry, no matter what was painted on it, marked on it?
Well, they were probably welded on. They weren't just like a magic marker putting it on. They would have been welded in. And these were, like we said, like sent to England and back. They were reused. There could have been markings all around it because they could have been marked when they were sent to England, marked when they returned, marked before they went up. And these were sent up like 3-4 a week. There was one sent up on the 9th, one sent up on the 7th. So there could have been markings all around it with some sort of identifications. Some had spy cameras in it, and some had nuclear weapons in them.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. We were firing up re-entry vehicles for nuclear tests all the time. I mean, there's no question about that. But
I also would like to point out here that there was one witness that did say the markings appeared to be done with a welder.
Okay, I hadn't heard that, but let's say that did happen.
Yeah, James Romansky was the witness. James Romansky said that.
Wouldn't the welds, though, themselves burn off too in the atmosphere?
No, and here's why. We never discussed this in our conversation so far, but here's why. The theory behind the Mk2 blunt body reentry vehicle was that a mass that big, and forget the cone, let's just talk about that real heavy copper mass in front. That coming through the atmosphere created a buffeter cushion of air that did not let the heat get to the vehicle. Now, granted, the temperatures did go up, and I have all kinds of research papers from the military that talk about tests that they did in early aircraft on re-entry to go for temperatures to make sure whatever was inside could survive.
Right.
The temperatures never got high enough to melt any metal
It would certainly explain the green color as well. You know, the copper.
Of course.
The copper burns
while,
as green.
While you brought that up, let's finish that conversation that we had earlier. The color of the recovered reentry vehicle, the MK2, was said to have had a orange or bronze color to it.
Yes.
I said earlier in our interview here that the cone and the stainless steel was copper cladded, coated by platinum. The platinum very well would have come off. The heats weren't high in the thousands of degrees, but they were high enough to melt the platinum off. Underneath would have been the copper cladding, which definitely, when it was oxidized, have turned a burnt orange color. In addition, if that copper cladding would have come off, the stainless steel, when it's heated up, provided it's not heated too hot, would have turned an orange color as well. And so that explains why the whole thing had a copper or a bronze color to it.
Now,
and also of significance is the fact that it was seen glowing green. And Owen's research into it is that heat sink was copper, and copper glows green.
Yes.
And what I find amazing, Jimmy, is if you remember the old, UFO books and stuff, there was a Dr. La Paz in New Mexico that was studying those green fireballs, and he didn't know what they were, but they were seeing them all the time.
Right.
Well, that's the testing of this technology with this capsule is what was seen. So we've not only answered Kecksburg, but we've answered the green fireball mystery of the 1950s in New Mexico.
Yeah, he certainly documented enough of that, and that no question, that was probably a lot of what he was seeing. But I want to address something that is confusing to me direct, and I'm not ruling out the UFO hypothesis yet on Kecksburg, is why the deception? Why not just say we were testing an MK2 reentry vehicle for multiple warheads, for nuclear missiles, for the Atlas rocket, and that's it, and then everybody would have shut up about it? Why lose files? Why say it was Russian? And why ride this out all the way into the 2000s, NASA's part, with disinfo on 1965 testing technology?
Well, there were two reasons behind that. One was that it had a spy camera in it, so we didn't want the Russians to know. And that information was not released until 1991, and you actually had to go find it like Owen did and find it in manuals and books and reports. So that was covered up just like, let's say, a U-2 spy plane was, we didn't want the Russians to know. The other thing, which I think is hugely important, is that this had a atomic or nuclear generator in it. They started using those type of generators in 1961, so this is 1965. And when it came into Kecksburg, they didn't know if this thing had been breached, if it was leaking radiation. They had to get in there and get this out. You could not take this and drive it out of Kecksburg down the main highway onto the turnpike with radiation leaking all over. They would have had to come back and tear the road up like they did on the Cash Landrum case in Texas and replace the blacktop. So I think it was hugely important that they got in there. And if you remember, one of the witnesses saw 4 guys with NASA patches on, with radiation suits on that they called moon suits, carrying, the 4 of them carrying a box, a 4x4 box, into the woods. And they either cut the generator out, or they were able to open it and get it out, put it in the lead box, and walk it out of the woods like the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, but why not, John and Owen, I want you both to answer this. Why not just say it was Gemini? Why not just say it was part of our rocket program? Why not go the innocent route that everybody would believe, and then the story would just go away? I mean, why not? It doesn't have to be a nuclear weapon. But why not say it was Mercury? It was an old Mercury capsule. It was a testing of they could have said anything that would have been benign.
Well, Let me just say this first, Owen. To this day, the Air Force Project Blue Book answer for this is that it was a meteor, which was as ridiculous as swamp gas or balloons. They have never, ever told us the truth, and they're not going to start. All yours, Owen.
Well, I'd like to make a point here along with this. The small end of the funnel portion of this RV had a releasable cap so that when they were in space, they could eject the capsule, the film capsule, from inside. It would come down, and the RV would come down separately.
Right.
The capsule itself would have a parachute on it. Now, any picture that we've seen of this so far, even Jerry Better's sketch, does not show us that lid removed. So what we think's happened here, at least I do, I think what might have happened was that lid probably did come loose, because if you read in the article, we have reason to believe there was trouble in space with ejecting that capsule. They already knew that when they were coming there to recover it, and they had already cut their own throats by putting guys in there with Geiger counters. At that point, they already alarmed the public that they had no choice, because they knew something was there. So they ended up with a point where we have to deny now, because they seen us with our Geiger counters.
Well, yeah,
and there's another aspect to this too, Jimmy. The lawsuit by the Sci-Fi Channel, which they won in court, that all of the records were supposed to be turned over, and they turned over the little they had, and then claimed that they lost the box.
That's
and that
right.
That was what, 97? That was quite a while ago, close to 15 years ago. So what are they going to do now? Are they going to say, "Oh no, we knew all along that it was this, but we didn't give it to the court"? I mean, I would think that that's violating the court order, and somebody's going to go to prison for that.
Well,
so I think that's a reason why they're not going to confirm or deny Owen's theory, because they supposedly turned everything over, and they can't add anything at any later date to the point that they said they lost the box.
Yeah, sure, because that means that they've lied 20 times now, and they would have to go back and admit to that deception. But my point is, and we're up against a break here, guys, so we're going to do this, and then we'll come back and address some other stuff. But my point is, back then, they could have said anything harmless because the space race was on. So they could have just said, they didn't have to say it was MK2, which I understand not saying that, but they could have said it was something else, and then it would have gone away instantly.
Here's an example. Fife Symington saw the Phoenix Lights. Did he come out and tell the truth? No. He waited 10 years before he told the truth, and it didn't matter anymore. There's case after case that the opportunity was there to tell the truth, but no, it's got to be spun and it's got to be covered up. And that's exactly what happened here.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got to talk about the Bell, Die Glock, and we'll do all of that when we come back tonight. Owen Eichler and John Ventre and Kecksburg. We'll be back right after this.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal God on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit fnginnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's fnginnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony. Damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right. Welcome back. This is Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Ventre and Owen Eichler are with us. We're talking about the Kecksburg Incident and their new report that was just published a couple of weeks ago in John's new book. And I have read it. It is compelling. It is. Hey, guys, check this out. I just want to read you what was just published on Twitter. And it's... These two guys are great. Jimmy is a believer, and his bubble is being shattered tonight. Sorry, Jimmy. And so my reply was, I ain't done yet. Don't put a fork in me. So
bring it on.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, there's a few things that come into play for me here. Number one and foremost, I just feel that the administration at that point, if they knew that this vehicle was coming in, it was an MK2, and they knew that it was coming in an uncontrolled situation, in other words, not where they expected it to re-enter, right? They've got problems with it. They obviously knew that this object was going where it was going because they were prepared. You know, right after it landed, I mean, trucks descended. You know, they knew basically where it was going to crash land. And I get all of that. I do. But why not, at that point of something so ultra-secret that they knew was coming in, need to protect, then go benign, go harmless, and just say it was Gemini, we're here, we've got some experimental stuff on it, it's nuclear, you guys back up, you know, we need to cordon off this area. And the public, nobody would have freaked out. It's the space program, you know, rah-rah team, and they would have understood it. And then the case just dies. It dies in its tracks that very day. The headlines are, Gemini re-entered in Kecksburg. No harm, no foul. You know, that's the problem that I have with it. I don't think that they were that dumb to just go and go the secret route, and because that's what causes people to talk and jump to other conclusions. And that's my point. I just feel I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about all of the lousy answers they gave for, swamp gas, balloons, et cetera, why don't we now 50 years later, admit there was no Gulf of Tonkin incident. That was a false flag.
Sure.
When do you think the Bushes are going to admit there were no weapons of mass destruction and they knew that? It's never going to happen. When are they going to admit what really happened with Kennedy? It's not going to happen. Once you start a lie and you go down that slippery slope, you're stuck. And yeah, they could have. Maybe you give them too much credit. Anderson Cooper, when I was on his show, said that the government's incompetent. Well, they didn't think to say it was space debris coming down. As a matter of fact, the predominant theory. And when I go to the Kecksburg conferences, I live 7 miles away. Half the crowd tells me it was that Russian thing. Half of them really believe that this is a Russian Cosmos 96, and the other half say, no, it's a UFO. So, they didn't think to say it was space debris. And here's the other kicker, too. Nick Johnson of NASA said the only thing that came down that day was Cosmos 96, 13 hours prior to when the Kecksburg incident was. So that statement alone, he's lying because obviously we know something came down in Kecksburg, and it was not a meteor.
Where did Cosmos eventually land? Was it in the water? Was it in the ocean somewhere?
It was over Canada. It came down over Canada. I have to think it just, crashed somewhere in the Canadian Rockies, out in the woods somewhere that they couldn't get to. But here's another important point. Nick Johnson also said nothing goes up and nothing comes down without the United States and Russia monitoring it. Do you really think Cosmos 96 would have come down in Kecksburg with the Russians knowing exactly where it is and we wouldn't have had an international incident because they want it back? They know it wasn't Cosmos 96. Cosmos 96 landed, burnt up, somewhere over Canada and landed in the woods up there, not here.
Now let's go to DeBell. Let's shift gears. The similarities are there. They definitely look alike. Why not the possibility of some type of time travel device coming from the future, from the past, something that we grabbed from the Nazis and were experimenting with, and we didn't want that secret to get out?
Yeah, the Bell is really interesting. If you think about the Philadelphia experiment, which is kind of like the Bell, was very, very similar what was trying to be done. But one of the things that's always bothered me about Kecksburg is that, if it was a flying saucer, they have anti-gravity. It wouldn't be coming in on fire, like it was. And the same thing with the Bell. It basically spun and compressed red mercury, and it was able to defy gravity, and then it got radioactive and it lifted off the ground. But it was a time machine. It was meant to really displace time so that you could technically bring your army right up to the enemy troops, turn it off, you'd be standing there, fire your weapons or just capture them. That's what it was meant to do. I don't think the Bell was ever meant to fly up into the atmosphere and come down. What would the point be? It was meant to be on the ground, really, to alter time, just like the Philadelphia experiment. I mean, the thing didn't reappear on fire.
Yeah, except I'm going off of the physical descriptions of the DeBell die Glock over the years. Were always, bell-shaped, acorn-shaped, with the writing and the hieroglyphics around the perimeter of the base, which is what we have with the descriptions in Kecksburg. So is it easy to dismiss? With the MK2, I look at it, I see the similarities. I don't feel acorn. I don't feel that type of shape that was originally described by the witnesses at Kecksburg.
Except Jerry Betters, who drew the only notarized drawing of it, and it's exactly the shape of the MK2.
But that's one guy. You said except. Yeah.
But it's the only notarized drawing we have.
Owen, what do you say? What do you think about the DeBell hypothesis?
Well, I've talked with John about this extensively. My feeling of it is I am not going to deny there was experiments done probably in Germany to do something with time. They were working at the time with vortices. They were hoping that they could spin space to have some change happen in space. When I mean space, no, I'm not talking about space in outer space. I'm talking about the space we live and breathe in. I don't deny that there was some experiments done with that. But my feeling has always been, and I have a technical background as well as a military background, I've always felt that what has been referred to as the bell was a centrifuge. And if you need me to explain that for your audience, I will.
Well, yeah, explain the idea behind it. I think we all know what a centrifuge is, but you're saying that the bell was the capsule that was used in the centrifuge?
No, I'm saying the Die Glocke that you refer to, which was found in a cave in Poland, was a method to refine nuclear material. I would say particularly plutonium, because plutonium is a lot lighter and you get a bigger bang for it than you do with uranium. I believe they were trying to refine at least uranium and probably plutonium to get to the point where they could get enough of a critical mass of fissionable material to make a bomb to go on top of a rocket to send to the United States.
As opposed to a time travel device itself.
No, I don't want to say opposed to, because I'm leaving myself open for consideration that they also did time experiments, but not in this case. I'm thinking...
I mean, the bell is a legitimate possibility. We had 20 years to refine it from 1945 to 1965, so it's possible. I just don't see, if you have a time weapon machine, why do you got to send it a couple of miles in the air? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, there's been a couple. Well, yes, exactly. But there was also a couple of different uses put forward for Die Glocke as well. One was time travel, and the other and Wonder Weapon was never used when describing the Die Glocke. But the other one was an anti-gravity type of device. And wouldn't that, Owen, seriously, wouldn't that explain the descent and how it didn't actually crash and blow into a million pieces, that maybe anti-gravity was used to control its descent and the horizontal flight pattern that you were talking about? And well, answer that first, and then I've got another question.
Okay, I would like to clarify, though, you can't make a distinction and consider mutually exclusive anti-gravity and time travel. They're both together.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that up. They are uniquely tied. But as far as it being used, back in those days, the things that we put up in the atmosphere were more out of necessity to make something happen immediately, which would rule out any type of information that they would try to apply in common everyday practice to make a bomb. They were way too far away from that at the point. I'm not saying it was impossible, but to me, it was more probable that they were using the Die Glocke for a way to refine fuel. And here's an example. Why then did Hans Kammler wind up taking what was called Die Glocke from Poland on a huge plane? I can't remember the name of that plane. Supposedly went to South America, and then the payload, the Die Glocke, did finally wind up in the United States down at Redstone with the rest of the paperclip German scientists. They were working on refining fuel, because if you go back and you remember, we only started Hanford and many other places to refine fuel and get it down pat after we confiscated the information we got from Germany.
Now, I would say also, when you look at the pictures we provided of the bell and what some people think the Kecksburg acorn looked like, and you got to remember this, what item was already embedded in the ground. The people who saw it never actually saw saw it while it was in the ground. So it was
200 feet away. 200 feet away is all the closer they got.
No,
but if you look
about
at the bell, let me just finish this. If you look at the bell in Cosmos 96, they would have been tumbling in the air. They didn't have the aerodynamic shape to do what Owen said the Mark II did. They didn't have that cone shape. They were almost rectangular in shape, with just a little narrower at top than the bottom. And actually, Cosmos 96 wasn't even shaped that way. It was shaped like your hot water heater. And if you look at pictures, I swear to God, it was a big hot water heater about 10 feet tall with pipes and valves and knobs and everything. That thing, that would have not done what this did when it was coming down. But the bell is a possibility, but I think the bell would have tumbled. And, like I said, my questions with the bell is, why send it all the way up in the air? And the other thing, hopefully we have time to get to, is we found an RV that went out of control on December 7th.
Now, we're going to talk about that, and which is leading into my next question. This is very simple. Our technology with MIRVs and re-entry vehicles and nuclear, the Atlas program, we were very, very, very precise in trying to figure out a way to pinpoint these weapons on cities around the globe. That was the goal here. And if this was MK2, then this practice run with a reentry vehicle for a nuclear warhead was completely out of control. Where were we testing these reentry vehicles back then? Otherwise...
Out in New Mexico. That's what we were talking about earlier with the green fireballs.
Okay, so in 1965, all of the MK2s were coming in into the southwest United States?
No, they were being launched
back in the 50s.
Yeah, in the 50s. But they were in the time period we're talking about, were being launched from Vandenberg and Johnson Island out in the Pacific. And I'll give you a particular quote. These were U.S. Air Force missions that evaluated reusable, maneuverable reentry vehicles that might be able to fly to precise landing points on Earth. That thing could do exactly what it did do. And think about this, too, which I think is important. It was heading towards Cleveland, and it made a turn. Then it was heading towards Pittsburgh. It made another turn. Right. They deliberately maneuvered that so it didn't crash into a city. Very similar to what people say.
I would like to expound upon what John just said. What had happened at the time that it was coming down through Ohio, it was recognized by controllers. If I was a controller, I would say, wow, we're losing altitude and we're losing speed. And we know what this vehicle is going to do. We're going to have to turn it somewhere. And when it made its last turn towards Pittsburgh, it was headed straight over to Washington, D.C. and to the Chesapeake Bay because they knew they could not get it to crash down in the Gulf of Mexico. It did not have the speed nor the altitude.
You guys in the report, you present the two line drawings of the Bell and the Kecksburg Acorn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do that? Why present this here if you're so solid about the MK2?
Well, we want to present everything. We don't want to pull anything out and hide anything, and the people have to make their own decision. The only, technically, we need the Air Force or NASA to say, yeah, this is it. Or more importantly, no one has ever come out that was involved in the recovery. There was about 30 people there that were military. There were 3 Air Force, 4 NASA, and about 24 Army foot soldiers that were armed. None of them have ever come forward. One of those witnesses would be an absolute confirmation. But let me give you a couple other lies. We say it was never picked up, not we, the Air Force, and NASA says it was never tracked on radar. Is that believable? We got this thing coming into the United States, could be a Soviet missile, but it was never tracked. It was tracked only on Canadian radar, not the United States.
Well,
so
we know
there you have another lie.
Yeah, we know that's not true. I mean, that's...
I'd like to add to that.
Okay, go ahead, Owen.
I'd like to add to that by saying I have a very, very good friend, 70 years old now, who was an ensign in the Navy, parked off of the New Jersey coast on a special ship in 1965. The ship was their mission was to do nothing but track everything coming in from Europe or from Canada. They knew where everything was at all times. Second thing I'd like to say is there were 400 people at one time stationed at Johnson Island with the 10th ADS, which is Aerospace Defense Squadron. We don't know where all those people are today, and if any of those people are listening, we would love to hear from you, because that's where we believe this was launched from, and we do know in documentation from the Air Force, which I have in a released classified document, that at any one time there were always at least 2 Thor rockets stationed at Johnson Island with MK2s on them.
Well, and there's I want to bring another point forward here. We absolutely knew about all missile, all reentry activity, monitored, radared, period. We all had our fingers on the button at that point in time. And the fear of that happening. That's why we know it's not Cosmos. Because if it was not ours, and we were tracking a reentry vehicle, a missile warhead, then World War III would have happened on that evening in 1965. No question about it. So,
Jimmy, here's a little bit more too. We claim we never tracked it, right? Yet they showed up on the Project Moondust within 40 minutes of the landing. We had to have been tracking it. They would not have got there, and all the protocols was exactly what was in Project Moondust to do to recover a fallen object.
Yeah, a fallen.
And by the way, Jimmy, we know where they came from. They came out of Coraopolis, PA. It takes 40 minutes to get from Coraopolis to Kecksburg. If you're traveling at 80 miles an hour, they knew very well and right away, or they could not have done that. They didn't even have time to say, "Oh well, let's forget the next coffee and go for it." They were there.
Well,
and let me give you lie number 20.
Okay,
They claim on the Blue Book that there were only 3 military people there. I don't recall if they said Air Force people who were sent in to investigate. Yet all of the witness testimony says there were about 24 armed Army. There were NASA people. There were Air Force people. They even used Lillian Hayes' house as a command post, and they were seen. And the interesting thing, they scrubbed the bills. When her phone bills came, there were absolutely no phone calls from that house, even though they were using her phone.
Well, they knew where they were going, guys, because it was a time travel device. So they were expecting it.
Well, we can't rule out the bell, except if you weigh the two and you compare the two, there's no real proof that the bell ever worked. There's no proof for it. There's a theory of the bell. We know for sure that this Mark II RV was in use, and like we said, they lost one on the 7th.
Now, I meant to ask you earlier, and we're going to be up against a break here, guys, so just be prepared for that few minutes. The witness, I believe he was black. Didn't he get there? And like you said that everybody was 200 feet back, but didn't he get right up on it within a few feet and got a real solid look?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Go ahead, Owen.
No, I'll let John go. I just wanted to say absolutely not. Nobody got closer than 200 feet.
Yeah, I mean, he was, I think, at one point on a road. Jerry Betters was a musician, and he saw it on the flatbed, and that's where he made his drawing. But he was stopped by the Army people, told he couldn't go any further. And Owen, you might know the whole rest of that story.
All I can say is that he had came out, he was in the area, and he had come out to see it. But the most stark thing about it is that Jerry Betters never saw a spacecraft. He had no idea other than watching television like you or me. And out of the clear blue air, he draws something that none of us even, listen to this now, Jimmy, none of us even ever seen this particular vehicle on top of a rocket because it was inverted. In other words, the cone section was put inside the rocket. That took me years to find that. Now, I was looking for a nose cone like anybody else would.
Right.
And here it turns out it was upside down. So he would never have seen that. He wouldn't have known. I didn't even know. And yet he drew a perfect picture.
Now, why wouldn't, again, I'm being devil's advocate here, but why wouldn't this thing why wouldn't it be covered? Why wouldn't it be covered? Why didn't they cover it up with some a tarp, some canvas?
Well, they did afterwards. When they put it on, then they put a tarp on it. And one of the other witnesses before, I'm trying to think, maybe the tarp was already on. The one witness also said that it was not that big. It looked like, he described it as looking like 2 suitcases under the tarp. So it wasn't 10, 12 feet high like Cosmos 96 was. This item is about the size of a man, about 5.5 feet high. 5 foot 2 inches across the base and 5 foot inches high.
Well,
yeah, and you can see how big that actually looks when you have a 5'2" wide object. The diameter on a circle, it's a pretty big base on it.
Well, what Jerry drew here on the back of this flatbed looks like it's 20 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah, but I don't think that's in proportion, though.
No, the truck itself, the flatbed itself, wouldn't have been any more, could not possibly have been any more than 40 feet. And so his picture is depicted graphically correct.
Yeah, and it was something else that Owen and I went through. I actually looked up and found the width of those trucks back then. And what was it, Owen? They were like 7 or 8 feet wide back then. They're like 6 inches wider now than they were back in that time period.
You did the research on a truck. I said I believe they would have been 8 foot, but you come back and told me that they were 11 to 12 foot.
No, the width of the truck was 6 inches less. So it was only like 7 foot wide, the flatbeds back then. So this thing having the 5.5 foot base would have fit perfect on there. So, it couldn't be 20 feet in height.
And plus, Jimmy, they brought a cradle with them. In other words, the shipping cradle that it was used to ship it around the world and on airplanes and such was already brought with them. They knew what they were coming to pick up.
Yeah. Hey, let me bring one other point, Jimmy, before we run out of time, is that my other question with Owen, because I told Owen, look, you got to convince me of this because I'm the UFO guy. I'm the state director for MUFON. I'm open to, any investigation, but you got to convince me. So we found one that was launched at 7:29 p.m. on December 7th. So my question to Owen, it was listed as not having an outcome. That much we saw in the record. So my question was, how long does it take to come down? Prove to me that this would have been in the air for 39 hours before landing in Kecksburg. And we found others, if it came straight down, it would have come down in, half hour, let's say. But there was one launched on December 9th that came down on the 11th, which is an exact copy of the one that's launched on the 7th that we believe came down on the 9th. And then Owen found others that came down 2 years later. So we know it could take a half hour to 2 years for these to come down. But the important thing is one was launched on the 9th and took 2 days to come down, had the same problems as this one, launched on the 7th, and we believe it came down on the 9th.
Okay, let's we're up against a hard break. Let's do it there. I'm going to get you guys to stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes after the break, and we'll resolve this. I'm feeling strange right now. I'm feeling strange, guys. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Ventre, Owen Eichler, Kecksburg, debunked. I'll be back right after this.
Nashville, Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
All right, you Fadernauts. Studio Dome has done it once again. A new Studio Dome Fadernaut special. Introducing the Studio Dome Boom Box Bluetooth speaker. It's got a rear-firing bass film subwoofer and dual 52mm main speakers. You'll never listen to your tablet or cell phone speakers again. Just click on the Studio Dome banner, use the promo code Jimmy, and you'll get the SBB for $49 and free shipping. And get a Buddy 4-port USB charger for free. That's a $19.99 value right there. And they'll throw in a Buddy in the box. It's the best deal on the net anywhere. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner, enter the promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Yeah, I said it. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Ventre and Owen Eichler, Kecksburg. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to read a few tweets here. Guys, I'm going to read a few tweets. One, I almost feel like calling in and saying, it's not fair. There's two of you and only one of Jimmy. Somebody else just tweeted, Jimmy's quote of the night, I'm feeling strange, guys. Cortana just said, debunked. Walter just said, sounds plausible. I think I'm convinced. And then Walter comes back with, UFO world is imploding tonight. What other stories? What other stories are they going to debunk? Ask them about Roswell. So with all of that, and again, the report is great. The evidence is great. It is certainly compelling. Are you guys ready to sit here and say that you're taking there's things out there, but it wasn't alien? We're taking that off the list. It wasn't Russian. We're taking that off the list. It was ours, and that's where the case stands. Is that where you guys are at?
Well, Jimmy, I can tell you as the Pennsylvania State Director for MUFON, and I run 3 UFO conferences, and Stan Gordon's talking at my November Pittsburgh conference on the 50th anniversary of Kecksburg. I am 95, 97% convinced that when you lay out all the evidence and you look at the 4 possibilities, it's the RV. The RV is definitely the number one choice.
Owen, what would change your mind?
Oh, I would just love to have first contact.
Okay.
I really would. But as I have said before, the MK2 RV is a dinosaur. And even if you go back 1,000 years, you're going to find somebody got a whole lot more intelligence than we do.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, why not at this point? Why not go to the governor of Pennsylvania?
Well, we haven't seen very much cooperation with ex-presidents who say that they would like to know. That's Bill Clinton quoting. We have heard information that President Nixon and Jackie Gleason were on a golf trip one time and took a trip to one of the Air Force bases in Florida, and they saw some things. I've come to believe, I will not speak for John, but I've come to believe that still nobody will talk about it.
Well, no, yeah. but I mean,
I'll
why
tell you,
not?
Jimmy, I am absolutely stunned that 10 days after we released this, to every media contact I have, there is almost no buzz. Nobody's picking it up. Nobody is printing it. It hasn't been in one newspaper. There's nothing on the internet about this story. You are the third radio show to talk about it, but nothing on TV news, nothing on newspapers. You know, when they put up that phony Roswell alien slide 6 months ago, 4 months ago, it was all over international news. I don't understand why this theory, which like I say, is 99, 97% there, why is there absolutely no discussion of this?
Well, like I said, why not take it to the governor of Pennsylvania and say, look, this is our evidence and this is what we think it is. We can take E.T. off of the table and make it news and make him aware of it so he could, calm down, the state of Pennsylvania and put this to bed.
Well, I can tell you one reason.
Right?
Okay, one at a time, guys. Owen first.
I can tell you one reason. We still don't have a budget in this state.
Yeah.
and he's stuck on it.
Okay.
Well, right now what we're trying to do, Jimmy, is to get the two largest newspapers in the area, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Tribune Review, to do something with this, to investigate our report and do something. We've got the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette involved, and I think their report will come out next week, their article. There's absolutely no reply on the Tribune Review, which stuns me because that's the newspaper that has always reported on UFOs. I mean, when I got on Hangar 1, I was in the newspaper twice in 1 week, once profiling the TV show and once profiling me. And they've put articles in the paper about the UFO conferences I run. They put articles about Stan Gordon and Kecksburg. It is total silence from the Tribune Review right now, which I don't understand.
Very interesting. I mean, the evidence is compelling, and the hard evidence is compelling. The intangible on the other side of the fence, that the thing that you can't touch, is why did they not just lie in the beginning and say it was Gemini or it's just something benign? I don't understand that.
They did lie in the beginning. They did lie in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. They just weren't smart enough to say it was unknown space debris.
Yeah.
You know what? They already had the Cosmos 96 that most people were believing. And even James Oberg, there's interviews out there with him where he says NASA may have lied about Cosmos 96 coming down 13 hours earlier so that we could recover it. But the Russians weren't that stupid. They knew, they tracked it the same way we did. They know exactly where Cosmos 96 went. The problem is it's all lies, all of it.
Well, I got to thank you guys for coming on tonight. Very compelling. Let's see where we can take this in the future. And, I'll do what I can. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think I just need to go back and address. I think the next turn of all of this is maybe the two of you or somebody else with the contact needs to actually just go back to NASA and have them confirm, or the Air Force, and that's it. And then the lie issue can be taken out of it.
It's not a NASA project, Jimmy. It was an Air Force project.
Yeah, that's why I said NASA or the Air Force. I mean, NASA certainly was tracking all space stuff, and they're aware of when NASA makes a launch.
Yeah. When I ask him about this, I'll ask him about Roswell, too, and I'm going to get the same answer. And I guarantee you both of the lost files on Roswell and Kecksburg are in the same room with the killing of bin Laden evidence.
They're at Hangar 1.
No, I wish it was. If it was, it would have been the first step. It would be the first episode of season 3. But do you know that they can actually move evidence from the military to the CIA that's considered national secrets, like the killing of bin Laden, and not even a federal judge can compel the CIA to turn that over. And that's where all the information on bin Laden is. And I believe that this UFO evidence is held by the CIA in that same room that has all the other secrets that no one can get to, not even the federal judge, not even the Supreme Court.
Thank you both. Absolutely fantastic, fascinating show. I mean, there you go. I mean, I just can't thank you enough. Thank you for all you do. And Owen, you didn't stop rolling that rock uphill. And I must commend you for that.
It's been a lot of years, let me tell you, and I've been one of the guys in the background who's never come forward before.
And can I get your permission to publish the report at jimmychurchradio.com?
Yes, you may have
absolutely.
my permission.
Okay, there you go. I'll take care of it. You guys have a great, safe, UFO-free evening, and I'll talk to you both soon.
Call me, John. Talk to you later.
All right.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, for your time.
Thank you, guys. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, goodbye.
And that's why Fade to Black exists. Right there. What do you say, Fade or not, my audience? What do you say? Was the evidence enough? Twitter has been on fire tonight. Look, I have to play devil's advocate. I always have to do that, and I have to remain in the middle, and I have to listen to both sides. I always do. I started off the show saying one thing. Something landed in Kecksburg. We know that. Too many eyewitnesses. It was a controlled flight. It was indeed horizontal. All of those things come into play when we talk about Kecksburg. So we know something came down. We know the Army was involved. We know that NASA was there. When I say the Army, the military, could have been Air Force. They were in fatigues. They were dressed out. So we know this. Betters did say that there was a star on the side of the truck. I remember that too as well. So that it was an Army or military vehicle that showed up with the object placed on the flatbed. So we know all of this. And when you look at the MK2 and you look, what I meant to say was, let me back up. I read the report. I knew about the report before the show, and I read it, and I was like, okay, well, that answers that, doesn't it? But I still have to present the other side of the fence, and that was my job tonight. Going into this and reading this, I knew that a large part of you were going to freak out and go, "You've got to be kidding me, really." And the reason for that is back to my point in this show tonight. Why the lies and the deception when it was ours? I understand it's a top secret nuclear weapon. It's a re-entry vehicle designed to focus on and maneuver onto a city or a target. That's what it's designed to do. Okay, so I get that. You don't want to say it was an MK2, it was a nuclear warhead or a device to carry a nuclear warhead. I get that. But then why not just say? I would think if I'm sitting around a table and I need to cover up something like this, then, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Let's just, all we need to say, guys, is that we are testing a new space capsule. That's it. It's just a new space capsule. And that's what we like. That's what came down. A space capsule that we could use without parachutes. How about that? And then run with it. And then this story does not continue for 1 minute. It's done. It's dead in the water. So aren't they smarter than that? That's the side of this that is just confusing to me. And all of the deflections, all of the things that were too easy to debunk or tear apart in the deception is with, saying that it was Cosmos and that it was a Russian vehicle. Well, that's too easy to disprove. So why go there and try to lean on that for years, all the way up to 2008. NASA was saying this. 2005, 2003, 97. Why say that you've lost the evidence and the filing cabinet? And I'm not kidding about this. This is what caused all the problems with the judge. The filing cabinets, the radar information, everything is suddenly missing. Oh, now you've got it. Do you have it or do you not? Were you lying before or are you lying now? That's what the judge had said. And that's the point. That's the part of this that is just messes with me. I just don't know. Could it have been an MK2? Yeah, it looks just like it. It does. The hieroglyphics part and saying that it was welded. Okay, I get that. I just don't. That evidence isn't there, and I would love to know what was written on the bottom of it. Die Glock, possibility. Some other technology, possibility. Alien altogether, a possibility. It did glow green. Did go, and the fact that the MK2s, it's got a copper shell and it's glowing green. What's weird to me is that the MK2 was really made out of that. I get that. There's proof of that. But wouldn't copper just melt? So I find it strange. Everybody's saying, "Do you feel strange, Jimmy?" I do. I feel strange because this is one of my fondest memories is Kecksburg, because we know something came down and it was controlled and this baby flew and it was flying and it was horizontal and it slowed down. All of the eyewitness testimony that describes this, and it curves, does a U-turn and does a little soft landing. There wasn't a debris field. It didn't crash. That's not what happened at Kecksburg. Everybody says the same thing. This object was intact. It was picked up and put on the back of a flatbed. It wasn't damaged. Nobody talked about this thing being ripped open, dented, crushed, debris. That's just funky to me. I didn't know that you could do controlled landings with nuclear warheads. I didn't know this. Now, going back and reading in the report, that was what was fascinating to me, and I brought it up in the beginning of the interview tonight, at the beginning of the show, was that these are designed, and I get it. You have to target a city or target a target, and you have to, be as accurate as possible. But it was designed to have airflow that could be controlled. This thing could be aimed and flown intelligently. It doesn't look like it. It looks like a cone. Looks like an ice cream cone. Looks like an acorn. But they were able to. That technology is that advanced. And I get that it is. It's a nuclear weapon. It's a reentry vehicle. It's got to get to where it's going. But that thing is designed to fly with the blunt end aerodynamically and can be turned. It can be slowed down. So much, though, as John brought up, how fast was it going when it impacted? I'm thinking this is how my brain works, and yours should work the same way. When you crash a car at 30 miles an hour, something happens. I'm not saying this is a car, but I'm saying at 50 miles an hour, you crash it, something happens. A plane crashes, something happens. Anything else crashes, something happens. Okay? So this thing had to come in slow and steady. And that's where this MK2 thing changes for me. So we have great evidence on both sides. Great evidence. What say you, audience? What say you? I've presented my side. I'd like to hear yours. I'm going to take a quick break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back, a little bit more news, and then we'll wrap this baby up. Tomorrow night's going to be good. An all John Teeter evening right here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you to John Ventre, Owen Eichler. Amazing stuff. You freaked a lot of people out tonight. I'll be back right after this.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
I'm not on Patti and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping, and I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best, and that the flavors were something that I could create myself, and we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of fruity, loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code JimmyLive. That's Jimmy, L-I-V-E, for the Fadernaut special. The website, coavapor.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
All right, you Fadernauts. Studio Dome has done it once again. A new Studio Dome Fadernaut special. Introducing the Studio Dome Boom Box Bluetooth speaker. It's got a rear-firing bass film subwoofer and dual 52mm main speakers. You'll never listen to your tablet or cell phone speakers again. Just click on the Studio Dome banner, use the promo code Jimmy, and you'll get the SBB for $49 and free shipping. And get a Buddy 4-port USB charger for free. That's a $19.99 value right there. And they'll throw in a Buddy in the box. It's the best deal on the net anywhere. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner, enter the promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Take me to your leader. Hey, what's up? All right, check it out. I was just sitting here contemplating like I do during the break. I was just thinking, what a week here on Fade to Black. Think about this for a second. Monday night, Ron Felber, the Mojave incident, something that you've never, just breaking that thing wide open. Last night, Hugh Newman, Jim Vieira, Giants. Incredible show last night. Tonight, Kecksburg debunked with John Ventre and Owen Eichler. Tonight and tomorrow night, John Teeter. That is Fade to Black. You guys are spoiled friggin' rotten. Seriously. Love it. I love it. I love spoiling every one of you one day at a time. Man, tomorrow night's going to freak you out. Tomorrow night's going to blow your mind. Tomorrow night is going to be that show. As if tonight wasn't enough. Last night or Monday or last week, for that matter. So tomorrow night, all John Teeter all the time, 2 special guests. Tomorrow night's going to be the mind-blowing night. It just may top tonight. It could be. All right. More than a year after the Los Angeles Police Department received 2 unmanned aerial vehicles, not one, but 2 unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. The units remain under lock and key, and they are awaiting clear policies on how they'll be used in operations over Los Angeles. The LAPD got the 2 drones from the Seattle Police Department back in June 2014. Seattle's mayor ordered the drones boxed up, shipped out, and done in February 2013 following public backlash over the shady acquisition process. In other words, they did it behind the public's back. And when the public found out about it, they said, not in our house. But Seattle police were completely unable to get rid of them. They couldn't get anybody else in the country to take them. Seattle offered the drones for free to interested law enforcement agencies anywhere. And the only one to step up was the LAPD. And now the same thing is happening here. I am quoting, "These 2 vehicles will be secured in my offices, and I will not release them to anyone, including the LAPD, until and unless the commission authorizes their release," end quote. That comes from Inspector General Alexander Bustamante. He went on to say, "In the meantime, these 2 drones will not be used or operated in any manner," end quote. There they sit in Alexander's office under lock and key. I'm going to say this right now, Los Angeles, LAPD. Any drones used in this city anywhere, and it's on. That ain't going to get tolerated here in Los Angeles. It's just not going to happen. There's just nobody here that is going to say, that sounds like a good idea. It's not going to happen. Now, I'm going to leave you with this, my good friends. A Florida car maker is giving a totally new definition to green technology. Listen to this. Renew Sports Cars. They're based out of Key West. They're a car design and manufacturing company. They are seeking to create a 100% carbon neutral and non-polluting line of sports cars. Now, I know that it's true that under the most circumstances that right now everybody wants some kind of environmentally friendly sports car that 500 horsepower and totally green emissions. And you don't have to feel guilty, driving it around. Tesla's close. But I get that. But it doesn't make sense, right? It's kind of like a paradox. Doesn't make sense. But then again, most sports cars aren't made, are you ready? From marijuana. The Renew line of sports cars is going to feature bodies made entirely from fibers of hemp. That's right. I'm not making this up. And they're going to design the engines that run on pot biodiesel. That's what I'm talking about. And this is Fade to Black. Tomorrow night is an all John Teeter evening. And I'm going to do it. And you need to dial in. Yes, a couple of surprise guests. It's a guarantee. Thank you, John Ventre. Thank you, Owen Eichler. Fascinating show. Was Kecksburg debunked? Fade to Black's executive producers Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar, Fady by Dale. Webmasters Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, syndication KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night's Fader Night. It is John Teeter all night long. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2015 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. Cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Everybody be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.